The world is celebrating United Nations Day today on October 24th. This is the day in 1945 when the UN Charter was adopted, including 5 permanent members of the Security Council. India, along with many other countries, are demanding reform in United Nations to reflect the realities of the present world, with India's inclusion in the Security Council as its permanent member, along with few more new deserving nations. DD India's correspondent Shubhendu Ghosh talked exclusively to India's permanent representative to United Nations in New York.
October 24th is observed as United Nations Day. We are in New York, and I have with me India's permanent representative at the UN, Ambassador P. Harish. Welcome to DD India, sir. Help us understand the importance of this day. And given the security geopolitical crossroads that the world finds itself in, where does UN stand today?
See, as you correctly mentioned, today's age is a day of multiple crises, multiple challenges. As we stand here today, last month we have had the Summit of the Future, where Honorable Prime Minister addressed the gathering. We have also had the UN General Assembly session that was addressed by Honorable External Affairs Minister. As you can see, the focus of this General Assembly session is leaving no one behind. 2 years of the pandemic and thereafter multiple wars and crises around the world has meant that we have missed our sustainable development targets. Agenda 2030 is no longer within reach. The effort of the international community, all nations gathering at the UN, has been to do a reboot of the multilateral system. We live in a multipolar world, and you need a strong, functioning multilateral system to make it work. This reboot of the multilateral system is going to impact positively all dimensions of the UN system, on peace and security, on development, social and economic development, on new and emerging technologies and how we can harness them and make them available in an affordable and accessible manner to developing countries. And last but not the least, on what we can all do together to combat climate change.
Right. And in all of this, how do you see India's evolving role with the United Nations as a founding member and partner?
For us, it is most important that we harness the UN system and the various frameworks for our own national growth and development. While a lot of focus remains on peace and security, and the Council on what it is able to or not able to do regarding international crises, let us not forget that the most effective and impactful contribution of the UN system is in providing humanitarian assistance, in harnessing the global development system to help countries achieve their development goals, to ensure that we are all able to achieve the minimum standards that citizens of the world aspire for in terms of social and development indices. I think in those areas, India is a very consequential country. We are not only a sixth of humanity. What India does when we lift hundreds of millions of people out of poverty, when we develop frugal engineering to send our spacecraft to Moon and the Mars at a fraction of the cost of a Hollywood movie depicting the same, when we are able to develop vaccines and make them available to our friends and partners in the developing world, when we develop digital platforms to leapfrog development processes and make this available through open source code to our friends in the developing world, I think they look to us for this leadership. I think it is in this arena that we make the best impact globally, and especially with our friends and partners in the developing world.
Right, and finally, the demand for reform of multilateral institutions such as the UNSC has been long pending. What can we say is the road ahead in that regard?
I think for the first time ever, the Pact for the Future that emerged last month has a strong commitment that all countries of the world want a reformed multilateralism represented in substantive reforms of the Security Council, an expansion in both categories, a revitalized General Assembly, and a reformed other principal organs and specialized agencies of the UN system. What we are seeking to work in the intergovernmental process in the weeks and months ahead is to ensure that we move and transition to the next stage of a text-based negotiation in a time-bound framework. I think it is imperative. We need a fit-for-purpose UN for this new era, and clearly they realize that the ability of the UN to respond to today's challenges has not been optimal.
Thank you very much, sir, for speaking to DD India.
Thank you.
That was India's permanent representative to the United Nations, talking about the United Nations Day and India's role in this global body. With camera person Jay Shankar, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in New York.